Hello, everyone. My name is Levi, and today I'm going to be giving a short lecture, if you care to join me, on Benjamin Franklin, one of America's great founding fathers. Benjamin Franklin was a very important figure in America, particularly around American independence and from Britain. Not only did he sign the Declaration of Independence, but he also was a very prominent and influential figure around American advocacy, for advocate for America against the British, and also helped shape a lot of American sentiments and understandings about how Americans should feel about what Britain was doing as far as taxation and troop mobilization, and basically argued very strongly for American values and defending those values. So a quick little introduction about Benjamin Franklin. He was, among other things, a political theorist, a scientist, an inventor. He was the first postmaster general of America. So basically he helped establish a lot of the communication lines between America, which makes sense because he was actually a very strong advocate for American unity leading up to the Revolution and the Declaration of Independence. He was also, quite notably, a writer and a publicist. As a writer, he came up with some very memorable quotes. I've listed a few of my favorites here. I'll read them to you. Necessity never made a good bargain. It's a good one. Anybody who's ever bought a used car knows that if you want a bargain, you gotta have some wiggle room. Another good one that I liked was "Little strokes fell great oaks." Good one, Franklin. I think that one speaks for itself. Some of the ways in which Benjamin Franklin was involved in American independence early on was that he was actually, before the Declaration of Independence, he was basically lived in England and would attend Parliament. And even though he wasn't a member of Parliament, he would argue on behalf of America and basically represent American the colonists' interests, and in a way represent them to Britain, or at least advocate for what America wanted. One of the more notable things that he did during this time was basically argue against the Stamp Act, which was a taxation that Britain had on Americans, basically to help pay for the French and Indian War. He argued that he published it through some of his writings and argued that America had already given a lot as far as manpower, resources, and money to help win the French and Indian War, and that it basically was not justified for Britain to continue to tax them on that, because America had already paid its price, essentially. One of the more famous or well-known pieces of literature that he wrote was called "Rules by Which a Great Empire May Be Reduced to a Small One." I think the title says a lot right there about how he feels. and about how he feels Britain is treating America. Here's a short excerpt. However peaceably your colonies have submitted to your government, shown their affection to your interest, and patiently borne their grievances, you are to suppose them always inclined to revolt, and treat them accordingly. Quarter troops among them, who by their insolence may provoke the rising of mobs, and by their bullets and bayonets suppress them. By this means, like the husband who uses his wife ill from suspicion, you may in time convert your suspicions into realities. So, pretty potent stuff. He's essentially saying to Britain here that if you treat us like rebels, then we might just become rebels because you're treating us poorly. So basically, he's telling them that their suspicions are going to be self-fulfilled. And by publishing this in America, along with some of the other things, this is kind of in line with some of the other things he was writing about and publishing. He's basically not just expressing how Americans are feeling, but kind of codifying and solidifying and reinforcing some of the ways that Americans are feeling. So he's actually influencing as much as he is representing American ideas and sentiments about the way that Americans are feeling towards Britain. And this is definitely a driving factor towards independence in my mind, because it is not only separating American values and American thought from British thought, but also reinforcing those ideas in the population. Here I have a picture of the Benjamin Franklin National Memorial, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I believe this statue is something like 20 feet tall. It's enormous. Quite pretty, I think. And Pennsylvania is where Benjamin Franklin was from, and also where he was eventually governor. So back to the Declaration of Independence, or the move towards independence of Americans. Another way that Benjamin Franklin influenced the movement of Americans towards independence was through his publishing of the Hutchinson Letters. He was in England at the time when he published these and sent them to America to be published. Essentially what these letters were correspondence between British officials and advocating, essentially taking liberties and rights away from Bostonians who had been labeled by Britain as being one of the more rebellious groups in the colonies. And this really, basically he's acting as a whistleblower and creating transparency to the Americans about what the British were thinking and feeling. And it, as you can imagine, it really incensed the Americans and really stirred up a lot of anti-British sentiments in America. As you can imagine, the British were pretty upset about that, and this actually essentially led to him being evicted from England. Which, once he was back in America, continued to work with some of his other influential American leaders, and he was chosen by his Pennsylvania Assembly to be part of the Second Continental Congress, and was also part of the committee which drafted the Declaration of Independence. He did not write it. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, but he did make some small revisions, and he did sign it. like mentioned, he was very influential in establishing or reinforcing American thought, and one of the prominent ideas going through Americans' minds was essentially the downfall of the. Let me say that differently. Essentially, what was wrong with monarchy and how monarchy was not a good political system. And one of the things that he wrote, which I kind of find humorous, but also, pretty embodying of American sentiment, was the greatest monarch on the proudest throne is obliged to sit upon his own arse. So again, kind of embodying what Americans are thinking, and also reinforcing it and helping shape it and making it popular and common thought. So another really important thing that Benjamin Franklin did that really pushed America or helped America gain independence was, and through some of the research that I found in the Franklin Papers, as well as some of the other primary documents that are available through Yale University or through the various other government websites, was that Benjamin Franklin basically helped procure and secure provisions for wartime, both ammunition, food, and as I'm about to explain to you, allies. And as he saw that America was pushing towards independence and falling out with Britain, I found a document which is basically accredited to Benjamin Franklin, but it is a secret correspondence, so he didn't sign it, so it can't actually be proved, but it is very well accepted by scholars that it was him that wrote this. Basically, as America was pushing towards independence, Benjamin Franklin was writing to European countries, and most notably France, and petitioning for them to be friends with America in the event of independence. An excerpt I have here from one of those correspondence is that it is likely great part of our commerce will naturally fall to the share of France, especially if she favors us with this application, as that will be a means of gaining and securing the friendship of the colonies, and that as our trade was rapidly increasing with our increasing of people, and in a greater proportion, her part of it will be extremely valuable. And that was written in March 2nd of 1776, so just a few months before the actual declaration. And basically, Benjamin Franklin is petitioning France to be an ally with America, and basically saying, hey, if you're friends with us now, you're gonna reap the rewards later. And indeed, France became an ally of America and helped America to gain its independence in the Revolutionary War. Here you can see Benjamin Franklin on the face of the $100 bill. Hopefully all of us have been fortunate enough to hold a few of these at one point or another. Another interesting quote I have here, this was March 16th of 1775. Benjamin Franklin is writing to Thomas Jefferson. In 200 years, will people remember us as traitors or heroes? That is the question we must ask. And I'm going to have to say heroes on that one. So, in conclusion, Benjamin Franklin was a defender of American ideals and virtues. He pushed for unity among the states. He helped define the situation and the American sentiments around independence. and he was also very politically involved in declaring independence. And I will leave you with a quote that I found of his. He was writing to Humphrey Marshall, and this is May 23rd of 1775, and this is just an example of Benjamin Franklin pushing for unity among states as a way of being able to repel British oppression. But as Britain has begun to use force, it seems absolutely necessary that we should be prepared to repel force by force, which I think, united, we are well able to do. Thanks for watching. My name's Levi, and I'm a student of history, and I hope you are too. Thank you.